Hello everyone, welcome back to geomorphology. Today we enter into the another major geological or the geomorphological feature which we consider as the second order relief, that is the plains. Plains are the most important landforms found on the surface of the earth. Plain is a broad area of relatively flat land with gentle slope and minimum local relief. Simply, you can tell that it is an extensive tract of flat land or a gently undulating terrain without prominent hills or depressions. The plains are the lowlands of the earth's surface, which may be very flat or moderately rolling or even hilly. They are formed both by the internal forces of the earth as well as the external forces of aggradation and degradation. Plains occupy almost 55% of the earth's land surface. Most of the plains have been formed by the deposition of sediments brought down by the rivers. Besides, some of the plains have been also formed by the action of wind or the moving activities or by the endogenic process. Now, let's look into the origin and the development of plains. Plains are found on the earth's surface, formed basically due to two major forces, the endogenic and the exogenic forces. Most of the plains have been originated due to the upliftment or the emergence of submerged land masses under epicontinental seas due to diastrophic movements. You can take the example of Great Plains province of United States. Plains are also formed due to the filling of the depression with the sediments which are created in front of the mountains during the process of orogenesis. The northern plains or the Indo-Gangetic plain is a perfect example for such type of formation. Sometimes the middle part or the mid part of the geosynclines remain unfolded after the formation of bordering ranges on both the margins of geosynclines. Such areas are unaffected by folding activities. Very often we call them as median maps, and these median mass becomes plains later on. It should be also pointed out that not all the median mass becomes plains. Rather, most of them becomes plateau. But you can take the example of Hungarian plain as an example of such type of plain formation between the Carpathian Alps and the Doric Alps. The plains are also formed by the deposition of enormous volume of lava over the extensive area that gives birth to lava or volcanic plains. They are also formed as a result of the extensive plateaus after a prolonged denudation resulting into a low-lying area. Sometimes coastal lands are submerged under the seawater because of the transgressional phase of sea. Such coastal lands submerged under the shallow water receive sediments regularly, and after a long time of continuous sedimentation, the narrow coastal plains are formed. You can take the example of the eastern coastal plains of India, particularly the Coromandel coast, as such type of plain formation. The submerged coastal lands emerge as marine coastal plains due to the withdrawal of seawater during the regressional phase of sea, leading to the formation of coastal plains. Take the example of Kutch region of India. Now let's look into the classification of plains. On the basis of mode of formation, plains can be classified as structural plains, erosional plains, and depositional plains. The structural plains are mainly formed by the upliftment of a part of seafloor or of a continental shelf. These type of plains are located mainly on the borders of almost all the major continents. The structural plain may also be formed by the subsidence of an area. The erosional plains, which we commonly term as peneplains, are formed by the continuous and the long-time erosion of uplands. The surface of such plains is hardly smooth, and hence we also term it as peneplain. The erosional plains are further classified into peneplain, glaciated plain, PEDIPLAIN, and KARST plain. Peneplains are the most characteristics formed by the river action at the end of normal cycle of erosion. Peneplains are characterized by convex or concave residual hills, which we commonly term as monadnocks. These will project above the general surface of the plain. The peneplains are formed by the lateral erosion by the action of fluvial agents and weathering process. The glaciated plains transform highland areas through their slow but continued erosive work into lowlands with flat surface, and also along with sufficient low relief of rounded shape. Thus, the glaciated plains are characterized by rounded peaks, broad and flat valleys, and small depressions, which becomes lakes when they are filled with water. Swamps and marshes are also developed over glaciated plains. You can take northern part of North America and northwestern Eurasia under such type of glaciated plains. The next one is the PEDIPLAIN or the wind eroded plains. The rocks become generally loose due to the disintegration caused by the mechanical weathering in the hot desert areas. Strong winds pick up these weathered and fine particles and deposit them elsewhere. The repetition of this process over a long period of time results in the transformation of stony areas into plains. The wind eroded plains, which we call it as wreck. In fact, they are stony flat surfaces formed due to the joint action of wind erosion and sheet erosion during flood, which generally we found in Saharan region, commonly termed as hamada. The plains developed at the hill slopes due to twin process of scarp, retreat and sedimentation are called as pedeplains. While you look into the karst plains, the plateaus generally, if they are composed of massive limestone, are subjected to chemical weathering and erosion by the groundwater and are ultimately transformed into lowlands of very low relief. Such plains are called as karst plains, which are formed at the end of karst cycle of erosion. The surface of karst plain is generally characterized by corrugated and undulating surface. Now let's look into the depositional plains. The depositional plains are formed due to the gradual deposition of sediments by different geological agents like river, wind, glaciers, and by the running or the underground water. The depositional plains range in size and extent, which depend upon the area and the nature of the sedimentation. When the plains are formed by the river deposits, we term it as riverine plain. The deposition of sediments in a lake region give rise to lacustrine plain. The Valley of Kashmir is a perfect example of lacustrine plain. When the plains are formed by the glacial deposits, we term it as glacial or drift plain. When the wind becomes the major agent of deposition, those plains are called as loess plain. Now let's look into the river deposited plains. The alluvial plains deposited by the rivers are the most extensive depositional plain. Nearly all the alluvial plains of the major rivers of the world are the members of this group. The alluvial plains are formed due to the filling of extensive and deep trenches or depressions caused by the tectonic movement with sediments of various sorts brought by the river. And the river deposited plains include the Piedmont alluvial plain, floodplain, and deltaic plain. The Piedmont alluvial plain are formed at the foothill zones of the mountains. The gradient of the river is remarkably reduced at the foothill zones, where the river leaves the mountain and enters the plain topography of gentle slope, which results in the deposition of fairly large sediments like cobbles and pebbles. Such type of plains are termed as Piedmont plains, and this results in the formation of alluvial fans. The floodplains are formed due to the decomposition of fine sediments consisting of sands, silt, mud, and clay in the flood zones of the river. The floodplains are also termed as alluvial plains because they are formed by the deposition of sediments of alluvial soils. These are considered as highly significant because of its high fertility, which become the granaries of the world. The river, while debouching in the seas and oceans, form deltas through gradual deposition of sediments brought by them. Take the case of Gangetic Delta, which is the largest delta of the world, as it almost covers 50,000 square miles. Thus, the delta plains are drained by the numerous tributaries of the master river. These tributaries, we call them as distributaries, and hence form the deltaic plains. The wind deposited plains are generally termed as aeolian plains. These are generally fall under two types of categories: the sandy plain or the desert plain and the loess plain. The sandy plain, when the surface of the desert plains are irregular and undulating because of the presence of numerous sand dunes and ripple marks, results in the formation of such type of plains. You can take the example of Sahara Desert as such type of sandy plain. The loess plains are formed away from the deserts. The loess plains are again classified under two categories: the desert loess plain and the glacial loess plain. Now let's look into the glacial deposited plains. The glacial deposited plains are formed due to the deposition of glacial and other debris by the glacial ice sheets, mainly in the areas of ice and during the ice age. The extensive glacial plain were formed in North America and Northern Hemisphere during that time. The glacial plains are again classified on the basis of their composition and structure. These are the till plains, the moraine plains, and the outwash plains. The till plains are generally finer to coarser materials brought by the glaciers. These plains formed into tills are termed as till plains, which are characterized by undulating wave-like surface having small ridges and peaks. The moraine plains are the deposition of finer glacial materials, whereas the outwash plains are composed of a mixture of sand, gravel, silt, and clay. Now, according to the classification of Finch and TREWARTHA, the plains are classified into flat plains, undulating plains, rolling plains, and dissected plains. Flat plains are relative reliefs which are not more than 15 meters from the surface. The undulating plains have a relative relief ranging between 15 to 50 meters, whereas the rolling plains have a relief between 50 to 75 meters, while the dissected plains have a relative relief between 75 to 100 meters. Based on the location, again, such type of plains are classified into inland plains and coastal plains. The coastal plains is an area of flat, low-lying land adjacent to a sea coast. One of the world's largest coastal plain is located in eastern part of South America. Now let's look into the economic significance of the plains. Plains generally have deep and fertile soil. As they have a flat surface, the means of irrigation can also be easily developed. That is why the plains are being termed as the food baskets of the world. The rich agricultural resources have helped the growth of agro-based industries around the plain regions. Since the plains are thickly populated, you can find plenty of labor available for intense cultivation and for the supplying the workforce for the industries. The flat surface of the plains favors the expansion of means of transportation. They are the centers of civilization. Easy means of transportation on the land and the growth of agriculture and industries in the plains have resulted in the setting up and expansion of cities and towns. The most developed trade centers and the ports of the world are found in the plain areas only. And thus, the plains have played a very important role in the urbanization of the world. I hope you have enjoyed today's session. Post your doubts and queries in the Google Classroom or in the comment box. I wish everyone a great day. Thank you.